To be completely honest, there's a lot of times where, the Xbox is overlooked or maybe underappreciated for what it's able to accomplish. And I think that that's probably something that will continue to happen, and probably for many reasons. Xbox is still looked at as maybe the outsider platform where it comes to, Nintendo, Sony, Xbox. Like, a lot of people look at that as a little bit of an outsider because it didn't start as early as Nintendo and certainly Sony as well. Now, when it comes to some of the things that they've been able to accomplish, they've actually been able to accomplish quite a bit in the little amount of time that they've actually been on the market, and they continue to offer things and change things and offer things that are maybe kind of looked at as a real reason to buy into the ecosystem. Now, I'm not saying that everything they do is perfect. Clearly that's not the case. They messed up a lot in the Xbox One generation, but I think they've done a long way to kind of right those wrongs. But still, even after all this time, even like, I realized that I was hating on them for a long time as well, but now it's like we're into such a weird situation where people kind of pigeonhole everything that Xbox does as not successful or something different. And I'll give you a good example of this, right? Like, Microsoft and Sony are two game companies that were, well, they do games, but they do plenty of other things as well. But they're two companies that do video games, and they actually have different ends to their means when it comes to both. Microsoft wants to be more of a services type of situation where they have a Netflix style of gaming, and Sony is still relying heavily on the more traditional aspects. So when stuff like this comes out, people always kind of get this wrong, and I see it, and I'm glad that this information came out because it makes a lot of sense what we're seeing, and I want to get into it. Hey everybody, I'm Crap Gamer, and this is Crap Gamer Reviews, your home for gaming news, opinions, reviews, and much more. You'll probably notice some changes around here, but that shouldn't stop you from leaving us a like and possibly even consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your free time with me today. It means absolutely the world to me, and I'm so appreciative of it. If you are spending some time watching any of my videos, please consider leaving a like, as it helps the channel grow and it helps the video to be seen. So yes, very, very important. Thank you guys ahead of time. Now, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, right, we see Microsoft and Sony are doing different types of things. Now, what's interesting is, for me personally, this doesn't really come as much of a surprise given what we know about both Xbox and PlayStation. And what I mean by that is a lot of Xbox fans, believe it or not, are heavily digital when it comes to how they buy their games. So even myself, when I used to see some of these things, and this is only speaking for like one particular part in the UK, whenever we see, oh, well, sales for this, we're 72% in favor of, the PlayStation. When we see stuff like that, we kind of question some of this stuff, and we go, well, what's really going on? Is it a thing with Game Pass? Is it because Game Pass that, Xbox fans don't buy, a lot of games and things like that? Listen, I think that there's something to that. I'm not saying that 100% Game Pass doesn't cost some sales in terms of, maybe some of the bigger titles or something, but I still think in the grand scheme of things, people that like to own their content are going to continue to buy their content. Now, what's interesting here is we're judging this off of Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Great game. I bought it on Xbox Series X, by the way, digitally, mind you. So Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga was not just a big hit at UK retail, but a major digital sales success too. The Warner Brothers and Telltale Games title saw 61% of its sales come via download stores. According to GSD, that means that the game narrowly misses out on matching Elden Ring's huge launch back in February for digital and physical combined. It is comfortably the second biggest launch of the year overall in the UK and the fastest selling LEGO game in history. In terms of digital, Xbox was the dominant platform, accounting for 41% of sales. PlayStation accounted for 34%, PC 18%, and Switch 7%. Overall, so including physical retail, the PlayStation was the biggest platform with 39% of sales, followed by Xbox at 34%, Switch at 16%, and PC at 11%. They go into some other details and things like that here, but what's interesting here is when you originally see what PlayStation had done, it made it look like, oh, well, PlayStation had 59% of the total sales and Xbox hardly had any sales. So when we actually look at the numbers and see what happened, Xbox strengths in digital is on full display, according to Christopher Drink, with 41% of Lego Star Wars digital sales coming on Xbox versus only 34% on PlayStation, 18% on PC, 7% on Switch. Overall, so including physical, PlayStation was the biggest platform with 39%, followed by Xbox at 34%. So you only have really a small differentiator here when it comes to Xbox versus PlayStation in terms of sales of this game. And a lot of people think, that Xbox fans don't buy games and things like that. I think that this really goes to show otherwise. I mean, listen, yes, there's probably some people that literally don't buy games anymore, but there's also always been people that maybe were only buying games a couple times a year to begin with. So if Microsoft can get those people that would buy those games only a couple times a year to also subscribe to Game Pass, I think that it makes a hell of a lot of sense, and we could be seeing some interesting things kind of come about from this bit of information. Now, for me personally, I think that it was always kind of a little bit ludicrous to say, hey, nobody's buying games on Xbox, because I buy games on Xbox. Everybody I know buys games on Xbox. Would it hurt something like a Halo Infinite? I mean, that's a possibility, because if you look at something like Halo Infinite, it's a free-to-play multiplayer anyway, so people were only having to pay for the campaign, and that might not be something that a lot of people are willing to kind of go out there and do. So listen, it's a strange situation, because yes, I do feel like it can negatively impact sometimes, and I don't want to kind of make it sound like it wouldn't ever be the case, but I also think that it's unfair to say, what, listen, there's definite instances of these situations where Game Pass can hurt sales, but also I have to say that for me personally, I feel like there's instances where it doesn't affect it whatsoever, and I feel like that's something that we're probably starting to see a little bit more now so than ever. So I am, hoping to see something before too long with all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I think it really kind of depends on what's happening long term and things like that. So I do hope that we get some kind of change with how we kind of correlate things with Xbox. I think it's fair to cast off that whole, well, Xbox is this or Xbox is that, versus some of these other things that happens with these consoles and stuff like that. So for me personally, I think people do buy games on Xbox. I think that people will continue to buy games on Xbox. I think people buy games on PlayStation. I think that having situations where these things keep happening or whatever, I think that we're going to continue to see a lot of changes in how people buy games, but I don't think it's going to affect long term what Microsoft is doing. I think that people are going to consume content in various different ways, and I think that that's perfectly fine. I just really think that it kind of comes down to what's happening with people in their lives. And also, you have to keep in mind as well that when it comes down to it, a lot of people have a Series S. Like, that's been the easiest one to find. And so if you have a Series S, you can only get digital, right? And I know there's a digital only PS5 as well, but let's just be real, that's few and far between. Like, they hardly produced any of those, obviously, because they want people to spend more money on the other one. So I understand a little bit of difference between these type of situations, but I also think that it's pretty clear that our buying habits are changing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everything is changing. So with that being said, I'm going to link this. What do you guys think? Do you guys dispel the myth that Xbox fans don't buy games, or do you think it's a situation where this is an abnormality or something along those lines? I'm very curious as to how the comments go on this. But anyway, let me know what you guys think, because I think you guys are amazing. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. Thank you so much for watching. Crap Gamer out.